Imagine waking up every single week to someone else's life landing in your inbox. Their job applications, their bank receipts, their darkest, most embarrassing secrets. Now imagine spending 15 years being polite about it until one email finally broke you, and you sent a reply so savage that a group of 40 coworkers had to sit with it in silence. This is a true story, pulled straight from Reddit, about the mailbox that turned one calm, patient man into an accidental internet legend. If you've ever been pushed to your absolute limit by someone else's carelessness, someone who never listens, never checks, never learns, you are going to love this one. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new here and settle in, because this is one of the most satisfying I finally had enough stories you'll hear all year. Back before most people even knew what Gmail was, you needed an invitation to get an account. It was exclusive, it was new, and it was the kind of thing early adopters bragged about at parties. The same way people used to brag about having a Hotmail address in 1998. Our protagonist, we'll call him Dan, because every story needs a name, and Dan Feels Right was one of those early adopters. He snagged an invite, created his account, and claimed the golden ticket of email addresses. firstname.lastname@gmail.com. Clean, simple, professional. The kind of address you could put on a resume without a second thought. For years, that address served him well. But Dan didn't know it yet. He had just planted a flag on a piece of digital real estate that thousands of other people all across the world would eventually mistake for their own. Because here's the thing about sharing a common first and last name: you are not alone. Somewhere out there, there's always another you. And some of those other yous are, to put it politely, not very careful with their own contact information. Dan discovered this slowly in pieces. First, there was mail meant for an indie film director on the other side of the world who shared his exact name. Production updates, casting notes, the occasional excited email from a film festival. Harmless stuff. Dan would reply, "Wrong email. Good luck with your project," and move on with his day. No hard feelings. Just two strangers, tangled together by a coincidence of naming, occasionally waving at each other through a computer screen. Then there was the man in Ireland. Dan lived in Canada, an ocean away, and yet somehow he ended up receiving a full purchase receipt from a total stranger. Name, address, partial financial details, practically an identity theft starter kit, wrapped up in a "thank you for your order" email. That one made Dan's stomach turn a little. He wasn't a paranoid man, but even he knew that was the kind of information that shouldn't be floating around loose in someone else's inbox. He deleted it, moved on, and told himself it was a one-time fluke. It was not a one-time fluke. The real trouble started a couple of years ago, when a sales rep based somewhere in the Chicago area, a man who evidently had never once double-checked the email address on his own resume, began using Dan's inbox as if it were his own personal filing cabinet. At the time, this man had a job, but he was job hunting anyway, quietly applying to other companies on the side, the way a lot of people do when they're testing the waters, and being diligent, or at least trying to appear diligent. He was CCing himself on every single application he sent out, except he wasn't CCing himself. He was CCing Dan. Full resumes, cover letters, references, home addresses, phone numbers. The complete professional and personal profile of a man Dan had never met, delivered fresh to his inbox with the frequency of a subscription he never signed up for. At first, Dan tried the reasonable approach. He hit reply, typed a short, polite note, wrong email, and sent it back to whoever had sent the message. Simple. No drama. Just a gentle correction, the kind you'd give a stranger who bumped into you in a grocery store aisle. It didn't work. The emails kept coming. So Dan tried again, a little more pointed this time. Wrong email, please check it again. Still nothing changed. If anything, some of the senders got defensive. A few fired back hostile replies, as if Dan, the innocent bystander catching strays in his own inbox, was somehow the one causing the inconvenience. Picture that for a second. A man doing absolutely nothing wrong, simply existing at the address he'd owned for over a decade, getting yelled at by strangers for the crime of not being who they assumed he was. Eventually, after enough rounds of this, the message seemed to land. The application slowed. The CCs stopped. Dan breathed a sigh of relief and figured that chapter of his inbox was finally closed. It wasn't. Because here's the thing about a man who doesn't check his own email address. Fixing it once doesn't fix it forever. New group chains would pop up. New senders, unaware of the years of history that had already played out, would loop the wrong man back into conversations meant for someone else entirely. And that's when the golf outings started. Somewhere in the Chicago area, a group had organized a recurring golf outing, the kind of casual, good-natured event that gets planned every year through a sprawling group email chain. The same 12 to 40 names getting CC'd over and over as invitations, reminders, and updates went out. And somehow, someway, Dan's named twin was on that list, which meant Dan was on that list. Every single time an update went out, it landed in Dan's inbox. Tee times he didn't need. Course changes for a game he wasn't playing. RSVP, reminders for an event 3 states and 1 entire country away from where he actually lived. He responded the way he always had. Calm, professional, wrong person. Check the emails. Message after message, outing after outing, year after year. It became almost routine, a strange recurring background noise in his digital life. Not enough to ruin his day, but enough to needle at him. A splinter he couldn't quite dig out. Picture that mental fatigue. Imagine being endlessly, repeatedly mistaken for someone else. Not once, not twice, but for years, across job applications, financial receipts, and now recreational golf invites. Every notification chime carried a tiny flicker of irritation before he'd even opened the email. Is this going to be him again? It usually was. Tonight was supposed to be like every other night. Dan was doing whatever people do on an ordinary evening, unwinding, half watching something on TV, scrolling through his phone, when the notification came through. Another golf outing email. Same group, same mistake, same wrong Dan, still copied in after literal years of being told, clearly and repeatedly, that he did not belong on this list. Something in him just shifted. It wasn't rage, exactly. It was something quieter and colder than that. The particular, weary clarity that comes after you've been patient for far longer than anyone deserved. He'd been polite. He'd been reasonable. He had given this group more chances to fix a simple problem than most customer service departments get. And here it was again, proof that none of it had mattered. He thought about typing the same tired line, wrong person. Check the email for what felt like the 100th time. His thumb hovered over the screen, and then he remembered something else. Something he'd been sitting on, unused, for who knows how long, because somewhere in the tangled mess of misdirected emails that had piled up in his inbox over the years, job applications, financial receipts, personal information belonging to a man who couldn't be bothered to check who he was emailing. There had also been other things, personal things, things a careless man sends to what he assumes is his own private email, forgetting entirely that his own private email actually belongs to a stranger 4 states. Away. Dan didn't need to dig for ammunition. He already had it. He opened a reply. Not to the sender this time, to the entire group. He typed slowly, deliberately, choosing every word the way a surgeon chooses an incision point. Still the wrong name, as I have told you before. If you see name at the outing, please tell him thank you for the free porn. I wonder about his tastes. He read it back once, then again, and then, without a flicker of hesitation, he hit send. Picture that email landing in 40 different inboxes at once. Picture the split second of confusion as recipients skim the first line. Oh, it's that guy again, wrong email, whatever. And then picture the moment their eyes catch the second half of the message. The pause, the double take, the furious rereading, just to make sure they read it correctly the first time. Somewhere in that group chain, the real name, the one this was actually meant for, was staring at his phone, feeling his stomach drop through the floor. 40 coworkers and golf buddies, people he'd see face to face on that very course, now armed with a piece of information he never, ever intended to share. There would be no smooth explanation for this one. No amount of laughing it off would fully erase what had just been read aloud, implied, and immortalized in a permanent email thread. For Dan, on the other end, there was no chaos. No group chat blowing up in his own life. Just the quiet, satisfying click of a send button and the release of years of pent-up irritation, finally expressed. He didn't wait for a response. He didn't need one. He simply closed his laptop, and for the first time in longer than he could remember, that particular inbox notification didn't make him tense up even a little. There's something deeply satisfying about a person who tries every reasonable option first, patience, politeness, repetition, before finally reaching their limit. Dan didn't lie. He didn't invent anything. He simply told the truth, in front of everyone, at the exact moment it would land hardest. Sometimes the most effective revenge isn't loud or dramatic. It's just honesty, delivered to the right audience. At the right time. If this story had you smiling by the end, smash that like button and let us know in the comments. What's the most savage reply all you've ever seen or sent? And if you want more true stories of everyday people finally getting their well-earned justice, subscribe, because we've got plenty more where this came from.